I've been lucky enough to actually go to Capitan, stand in front of it in Yosemite. It's terrifying standing on the ground, looking up at it. You can see the climbers who are doing it with ropes, taking days to do it, whereas you did it very quickly. They're like tiny little dots on the side of the mountain. What possessed you to take it on without ropes?
Well, it's sort of the end of a long path for me. I mean, you know, when I was younger, just the idea of climbing El Cap with a rope represented this huge challenge. And then over time, as I've learned as a climber, you know, taking on bigger and more challenging things.
The monster off-width is a crack that goes up part of the mountain. And you basically wedge bits of yourself into to move up.
Yeah, you try to wedge as much as yourself as possible inside the crack.
So imagine the worst Pilates class in the whole world with someone flogging you, and as you do it, occasionally sandpapering skin off your body, telling you to hold the position until you vomit. If you lose the position, you die.
Yeah.
And that was a small section in this, Alex, as well.
Yeah, that's one 50-meter section in the middle of the wall.
Now, the other thing is that the original guys that climbed many, many years ago, how long did it take the original guys that went up?
The very first ascent of El Cap was spread over a year and a half. I mean, basically, you know, I mean, it's common for people nowadays to spend 3 to 5 days on the wall.
So they sleep
And
on it.
they sleep, don't they?
And how long did it take you to do it without anything?
Almost 4 hours.
Almost 4 hours.
Yeah, 3:56. As you saw in the film, watching free soloing can be difficult.
Yeah, of course. And you actually in the film you make an attempt initially, and then you decided to turn back.
You know, while you're up there, you're just like, oh, it seems scary. I'm not sure, but I mean, the reality was that I just hadn't prepared enough. I didn't trust my feet. I didn't trust the moves, and that attempt was actually in the fall, and conditions are fundamentally worse than they are in the springtime, just the way the sun and the shade are. And so, yeah, I just wasn't quite ready. Jimmy
Chin, who made the film, who I was lucky enough to abseil down on the old ITV Tower live on the show. Jimmy came down with me. That's Jimmy looking very professional and me looking really calm.
You had to really pretend you weren't scared because you were live, didn't you?
Absolutely terrified. But Jimmy made this film with you, and he said at one point, if you're constantly pushing to find the edge, eventually you will find it. And finding the edge is going over the edge. And he talks about he's imagined you falling through frame. And a lot of it is dealing with your mortality, because the reality is, if you're not perfect on this ascent, you will die. How do you process that in your mind, Alex?
Well, I mean, you know, even without the film, those are the kinds of questions that you have to think about before you can free solo a big wall. And so, yeah, you basically have to decide, you know, is it something that matters enough to you? Do you care enough about this climb? And, you know, and was I prepared enough for it? What, you know, was it safe for me? Yeah, I mean, certainly things you have to think about.
And in the you have a CT scan at one point. And what
no, fMRI.
Sorry,
yeah.
fMRI.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
kind of like, so it's a brain scan, essentially.
Yeah,
They have a brain scan, because we want to work out how you process fear. And so they put you in front of all these images. And what they found, just explain a little bit about what they found about your brain.
Yeah. Well, so actually, the key finding was that it's all there, it all works. So they found that I didn't respond to stimulus in the same way as the control subject, which I actually took to be an example of practice, sort of, you know, having conditioned myself over time, you know, having had so many scary free soloing experiences, being in the fMRI machine and looking at pictures just wasn't stimulating in the way that it may be to the average person.
Yeah.
I mean, so some people watch that section of the film and they think, oh, he doesn't feel fear. But I don't think that's the takeaway. I think the takeaway is that with enough time and practice, I don't experience it quite the same way anymore.
Which I think is fascinating. Wasn't it your mum who said, good enough isn't? And funnily enough, you said you've been following our politics, and we have an extraordinary moment for the Prime Minister, where she probably feels like she's climbing a Brexit rock without ropes at the moment in a very lonely way. And she has been saying, actually, don't let the perfect be the enemy of good, that sometimes you just have to compromise. But your life and your work, if you like, is about no compromise, about perfection or death, isn't it? How do you begin to train yourself to deal with that? Because most of us are ruled by fear, aren't we? We don't do things often that we want to do.
And we have a safety net as well.
And yes, and we always want a safety net. So how do you begin that process, do you think?
I mean, honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, those are big questions, and I think that I certainly...
They are, sorry,
I certainly,
for this hour of the morning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I certainly, you know, have fears in my life as well and worry about things like that. And, you know, like, say, my relationship with my girlfriend, you know, dealing with things like that, I mean, yeah, it can be scary. I don't know. I mean, I think that in my case, it's easier to manage fear within the context of climbing because I love climbing. I've been doing it for 20 years. It's all, you know, more than 20 years. Basically, I practice many hours a day. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's like, it's what I do.
Yeah, well, let's talk about your girlfriend, Sandy, because she is extraordinary in this film. There's a compromise suddenly because you're not just focused on the climbing, and you now have somebody that you're in love with, that you care about, and you understand their emotion and feelings of this as well.
Yeah, no, it certainly complicates things. Though I think that previously, before I'd met Sonny, you know, my process was often just to sort of isolate myself, just to do it totally alone in secrecy and just focus on the climbing. And I think that one of the big themes of the film really is this relationship with my girlfriend and her sort of pushing back on that and saying, well, why don't you have both? Why don't you have a good relationship with me while still climbing at a high level? And I mean, and ultimately, I don't want to spoil the film, but I mean, you know, that does work out. I mean, and we are able to, we're still together and, you know, everything's
Lovely.
good.
Great.
And yeah, and able to sort of keep that at heart while still.
So you feel like you can have it all, as she says, you can have the climbing, you can have the free soloing, and you can have a...
I mean, we're certainly in this case, it worked out well.
And you're a verb. Honnolding.
Oh, I don't know about that.
What does that mean exactly?
Honnold.
To
So
Honnold.
some people use that to mean standing with their back against an edge.
I imagine you get asked this a lot, and your probably girlfriend doesn't want you to consider it, but is there a plan for something next?
I mean, lots of climbing plans, but nothing quite like nothing like free soloing big walls like that. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure if there is another wall in the world that matches.
Do you think you've
El
put
Cap.
that to bed then? That sort of that desire, that urge?
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Never say never. That's what you say.
Time will tell.
Thank you so much
Wow.
for coming in.
Well, thank
Such
you.
a pleasure to meet you.
You know, I knew you were coming in, so I knew you were
we're
okay.
very
But
excited.
still, watching the film, I was terrified. And the moment where you come around one of the corners and you wave at the camera like it's just a walk in the park, you're just having a nice day out.
I mean, I was up there for my own pleasure. I was up there because, you know, I wanted to go climbing. It was.
Yeah, you just did it without a rope.
I don't want to say it was a walk in the park, but yeah, it was.
Wasn't far off. Alex Honnold, thanks so much.
Walk up a sheer face cliff.
Yeah, just standard.